Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant. And she's right. But I'm not afraid. And I hope you're not either.
I hold in my hands, ladies and gentlemen, what might be the opening salvo of Donald Trump's mission to take down his political opponents. Weaponization of the government, the same weaponization he's whined about for years and years and years. This is not justice. This is not seeking justice. This is political targeting. This is political retribution. This is political revenge against the former FBI director, the former Deputy Attorney General of the United States, James Comey. Somebody I don't have a lot of fondness for. In fact, this is what's so interesting about this. This is one of the most interesting things about this, I believe. If not for James Comey, Donald Trump would not have been president in 2017, after the 2016 election. It was because of James Comey's carelessness and I guess weird adherence to his conservative principles, being a Republican, that he released a bunch of information about Hillary Clinton in some investigatory capacity that should not have been released, and it caused what happened. It almost solely can be laid at the feet of James Comey. So even though he provided Donald Trump with the presidency, not good enough. He is an enemy of Donald Trump. He's being charged with one count of false statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the United States government, and count two, one charge of obstruction of a congressional proceeding. 2 of 3 charges that were brought, the grand jury wouldn't find him that there was reasonable enough evidence to send to a jury. I think it's very likely all of this goes away at trial, because the burden on a grand jury is different for the burden on a burden of proof in an actual trial jury. I served on a federal grand jury, the same grand jury, by the way, that indicted Michael Avenatti in Orange County, California. I sat on that grand jury for a year and a half. We had to extend for 6 months because they didn't want to impanel a new grand jury and have to show them all new evidence or all the old evidence in the case. I'm well aware of how it works in a grand jury. And let me tell you, this isn't like secret grand jury knowledge. This is just how it works. They don't have to provide exculpatory evidence. All they need to provide is what they think is going to get them to trial. They don't have to, unless grand jurors ask questions. And oftentimes they don't. In my experience, they don't. I was a ringleader of no, I don't believe this is a conspiracy charge. I don't think this. I don't think this. And then when we went to deliberate, I would not go straight to vote. I would say, no, I want to talk about this case. So unless you have somebody like that, it's not like I'm tooting my own horn, but unless you have someone, there have been cases here in Washington, D.C. where the grand jury says, nope, we're not indicting. And the federal government has had to not go forward with the cases. But let's get into this. So the former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, resigned / I quit. You can't quit. I fire you. One of those deals. There wasn't enough evidence. This is clearly political weaponization, using the Justice Department as Donald Trump's own personal retribution service, revenge service, his own personal law firm. And the guy quit. He's like, I'm not going to do this. This isn't right. This isn't proper. This is not justice. So what does Donald Trump do? He puts Tawny Katane. If you remember the Whitesnake video. Oh, I crack myself up sometimes. Lindsay Halligan is her name. I've been talking about her a little bit lately. She's the former beauty pageant contestant, not winner, but just, she competed, who ended up being an insurance lawyer and then went on to represent Donald Trump in the documents case. Now she is the interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. She's also a master 80s aficionado, apparently. The look, she just needs blue eyeshadow and she's all the way there. And look, we've known this was coming for a long time. Donald Trump was even asked about this in the Oval Office yesterday, and he feigned like he had no idea. All I know is what I read from the papers. I don't know. Pam Bondi's right here. Pam, what can you tell us? But nobody believes, even Republicans who are champing at the bit for a conviction of Donald Trump's opponents, they even know that's bullshit. Watch this from yesterday in the Oval Office.
Just like we did Washington, D.C., and we're gonna do Chicago very soon. Yeah.
We heard there could be an indictment on James Comey. Do you know if there is an indictment or?
I don't know. I know it's going on because I read the papers just like you do, right? So I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that?
We can't comment on that.
Can you comment on New York Times? Madam Attorney General, can you comment on a New York Times report saying that Justice Department officials have asked attorneys to target a George Soros-funded group? And is this executive order that you just signed a part of that effort?
I'm not going to comment on whether there is or is not a pending investigation, but everything's on the table right now.
I don't think anybody has to ask, because if you look at Soros, he's at the top of every. In fact, sometimes they say, could he be involved in this many things? But he's in every story that I read. Stories that I read keep talking about Soros, and so I guess he'd be a likely candidate. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and at the end of that, at the end of this segment of answering questions where he's just giddy because his weekend is getting ready to start, he's always real peppy when he's thinking about golf, right? They ask him about other names. And he's like, well, I don't know, but I hear this might be I hear about this name. I read about this being a thing. When all of this, the reason it's even written about is it's like a snake eating its tail. It's cyclical logic with Donald Trump. He voices who he wants to be punished. The right-wing media sphere writes a bunch of articles about it, and then he refers to those articles when talking about the evidence for the case. It's nonsense. Watch this.
They're professional agitators and anarchists. They're actually anarchists, yeah. Go ahead, why don't you defend? Let's see you defend them, Jeff.
No, I'm not defending anyone. I just want, so that we can just explain this in our stories.
You don't explain it right, though, Jeff. Go ahead, let's go. Maybe let's give you another chance. Go ahead.
Antifa, Soros, what names are we talking about?
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. I don't know, maybe could be him, could be a lot of people. We hear the same names, but they're bad, and we're going to find out. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. These are anarchists. Really bad.
And look, this is a very slippery slope. We are already plunged into fascism. This is an authoritarian type of person, Donald Trump. Even his former attorney agrees. Even Ty Cobb, the weird mustachioed former attorney of Donald Trump, is saying, this isn't good. This is absolutely what it looks like, and it is not bearing well for what we are going to be looking at into the future. Watch him talking to Aaron Burnett on CNN last night.
What do you see here?
Well, I think this is a tragic day for America, not because Comey's perfect by any means, but what we have here is a clear vindictive prosecution, a clear selective prosecution. We have a president for the first time in history ordering his attorney general to indict his enemies, and the attorney general, instead of being the independent force that she's supposed to be, saying, yes, sir, how fast can I get that done for you? I think if she's concerned about justice for people who have misled the country, reflection on her confirmation proceedings is probably in order, because she talked about even-handed justice, and this is not that. I think that the case is subject to motions to dismiss for vindictive prosecution and selective prosecution. I think, likewise, it's a very weak case, at least based on what we publicly know, and we publicly know an unusual amount about this case because of the Justice Department internal Inspector General's investigation, where he found the person that Comey allegedly authorized to leak the information not credible, and found that Comey was credible. So I think this is a very problematic case for the government to bring, but I think the way in which they brought it is problematic for the entire country. And this is either the end of the rule of law in America, or it's a tipping point against the authoritarian activity that we have seen from this president and his attorney general.
He is exactly right that this is Donald Trump directing his DOJ to go after the former director of the FBI and, again, former deputy attorney general of the DOJ. He's directing them to do so. In a video later today, I'm going to be talking about the Republican responses to this. And Donald Trump has been calling for Comey's takedown for years. For him to feign like he has nothing to do with this is just nonsense. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. James Comey, apparently Instagram is his preferred method of communication. He took to Instagram on his account and posted this video to give you an idea where he's at with all of this.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
I believe him. I believe that he's unafraid, that he is unmoored, that he will not be shifted off his position of his resistance to Donald Trump and fascism itself. I believe him. I'm not fond of James Comey. I think he's made some mistakes that are verging on unforgivable. Verging on, not totally unforgivable. He's not an irredeemable character, but he certainly fucked up pretty big. He is responsible, I believe, almost solely for the condition of the country right now because he gave us Donald Trump. And he's going to have to make amends with that. He's going to have to come to grips with that, of what his legacy is in the history of the country. But he does not deserve prosecution. He did nothing that rises to the level of felony conduct. And we know that because the first U.S. Attorney of Eastern District of Virginia had enough integrity to say, I'm not doing this. This is not what I signed up for. But Tawny Katane, Lindsay Halligan, apparently it is what she signed up for. It's not a blunder, CBS News. That is giving Donald Trump and his sycophant bootlicking lapdogs the benefit of the doubt that it was a blunder. A blunder is a mistake. Not only is Donald Trump weaponizing the Department of Justice against his adversaries, his opponents, people who don't think like him, people who tried to hold him accountable, he's also weaponizing the National Archives. The same National Archives that he said was filled with radical left lunatics. He's now using to hurt the governor race in New Jersey. He's using the archives who released unredacted service records to the opponent of veteran Mikie Sherrill, a former guest on this program, a former member of the Department of the Navy. She was in the Navy. I was in the Marine Corps. Let me tell you, this is next level bullshit. This is authoritarianism. This is weaponizing the power of the United States government, the full width and breadth of the power of the government against someone, a Democrat, who doesn't agree with Donald Trump, who's running for governor in New Jersey, and gave these documents to her opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, a guy who didn't serve, A guy who had the opportunity to. He could have signed up. He could have volunteered to serve his country in the United States military, and he chose not to. And of course, he's lauded and loved, and he's a hero to the right who acts like they love the troops, they love patriotism, they love the military. The same party that stands behind a man who maligned an actual, literal war hero in John McCain. Absolutely everyone, whether you served or not, should be outraged at this story. Republicans who claim to be patriots, most of them are just fake-triots, but they especially should be bothered by this story. And the reason I call them fake-triots is because of this. Just the other day, during the debate between Jack Ciattarelli and Mikie Sherrill, again, Mikie Sherrill, who actually served, who actually volunteered, donned the uniform of her country, and was a helicopter pilot in the Navy. She's talking about her service and these fake-triots, these Jack Ciattarelli, Donald Trump sycophants. They boo her when she talks about having served her country in the military. Watch this.
My entire life, and I've taken numerous oaths, up to and including offering to die for this country for free speech.
Time.
And so I think
10
it's
seconds.
fair to have free speech, but I think it should go to everyone. So that's why I talk a lot about being a Navy helicopter pilot, because I think people know what that means. I think they know that I've always served this country and I'm proud of it.
And now we learn that Donald Trump is weaponizing her service record, unredacted, all her information, and giving it to the opponent. There were some things that were redacted. We'll get to that. But it was other people's information that was contained in her service record. This is from Twitter. This is what Mikie Sherrill said on Twitter. This is an illegal and dangerous weaponization of the federal government, that Jack Ciattarelli and the Trump administration are breaking the law and exposing private records for political gain is a violation of anyone who has ever served. No veteran's record is safe. Makes me wonder. When eventually all of the shit that rolls downhill from Donald Trump, when eventually he runs out of targets that are more prominent than me, when it's going to come for me. She also said this on Blue Sky. The Trump administration illegally leaked my unredacted personnel file to Jack's allies to try to smear me. The full force of the federal government is being weaponized to defeat me. I'm asking for you to help me fight back and donate here. That same link that was in that Blue Sky will be at the top of the description. I will pin a comment. If you got $5, if you got $2, if you got $10, if you got more, help her in her fight against this unpatriotic weaponization of the government, against a veteran of the United States Navy. This is what's going on here. I know it took me a long time to get here, but here's CBS. Archives released too much of Mikie Sherrill's military record to ally of her opponent in New Jersey governor's race. A branch of the National Archives released a mostly unredacted version of Democratic Representative Mikie Sherrill's military records to Nicholas DeGregorio, an ally of Jack Ciattarelli, her GOP opponent in the New Jersey's governor's race. The disclosure potentially violates the Privacy Act of 1974 and exemptions established under the Freedom of Information Act. The documents, which were also obtained by CBS News, appear to show that the National Personnel Records Center, a wing of the National Archives and Records Administration, charged with maintaining personnel records for service members and civil servants of the United States government, released Sherrill's full military file, almost completely unredacted. CBS News discovered the egregious blunder. It's not a blunder, CBS News. That is giving Donald Trump and his sycophant bootlicking lapdogs the benefit of the doubt that it was a blunder. A blunder is a mistake. This was a calculated effort to harm the candidacy, the campaign of a Democrat, and help the Republican opponent by illegally giving private personal service information. Come on. The documents included Sherrill's social security number, which appears on almost every page, her home addresses for her parents, life insurance information, Sherrill's performance evaluation, and the non-disclosure agreement between her and the United States government to safeguard classified information. The only details redacted in the document are the social security numbers of her former superiors. The files appear to be the same ones Sherrill requested in August 2017 from the National Personnel Records Center, or NPRC, according to a signature verification on the documents. Now listen, if you're still here, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to tell you a little bit about Mikie Sherrill and her service. This is from the United States Naval Academy. They have a section of their website with notable graduates. And this is what they had to say about her exemplary service, both at the Naval Academy, but also in the United States Navy and beyond, becoming a dedicated public servant after having served selflessly and honorably in the United States military. Again, U.S. Naval Academy, notable graduates, members of Congress. After graduating from the United States Naval Academy in 1994, Congresswoman Sherrill spent almost 10 years on active duty in the United States Navy. She flew missions throughout Europe and the Middle East as a Sea King helicopter pilot, worked on the battle watch floor in a European theater during the Iraq invasion, and served as a flag aide to the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Atlantic Fleet. Congresswoman Sherrill also served as a Russian policy officer and worked on the implementation of our nuclear treaty obligations and oversaw the relationship between the U.S. Navy and Russian Federation Navy. After leaving the Navy in 2003, Congresswoman Sherrill attended law school, earning a degree from Georgetown University. She worked as a lawyer and eventually joined the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, where she worked as an outreach and reentry coordinator and as an assistant U.S. attorney. Then they go into her education more granularly. This is a woman who served honorably. This is a person who selflessly volunteered to serve her country. And what thanks does she get for it? They violate her privacy rights. They violate her service by sending her opponent unredacted service records that they do not have a right to. This is weaponizing the government. This, if you live in New Jersey, should be a deal breaker for voting for Jack Ciattarelli, the guy who thinks that segregation in schools should continue, that black kids, they're not important enough to go to school with white kids. The man who's fostered in his campaign a spirit and an attitude of disrespect toward military veterans so much that they boo when Mikie Sherrill talks about having served in the Navy. I know that the Congresswoman, that the hopefully future governor of New Jersey wouldn't agree with my saying this. These people. Absolutely. Jack Ciattarelli can kiss my ass. The non-serving in the military Jack Ciattarelli, how dare you, sir? You should absolutely be disavowing this. And if you don't disavow that your ally got a hold of this, got a hold of it, that had Donald Trump interfere in this, if you don't disavow, you need to drop out of the race. Disgraceful, unpatriotic, un-American, illegal activity.
The DOJ needs to act aggressively because the American people are tired of a two-standard system in justice.
These are actual crimes. Remember, they had to make up crimes to charge Trump.
For years and years and years and years and years and years, Donald Trump has maligned James Comey. I mean, all kinds of his opponents, political opponents. But James Comey especially, which is very strange, as I've talked about in a previous video, that James Comey is almost single-handedly responsible for Donald Trump becoming president in 2017 after the 2016 election. So it's very strange that this is his reward, is being indicted on two absolutely trumped-up bullshit Donald Trump counts. Our felon president is now disseminating justice and charging people with felonies. Gotcha. But for years, again, Donald Trump has been doing this. And I want to start this video because I'm going to play some reactions from Republicans who are gleeful about this, who are rubbing their hands and twisting their mustaches like they're some kind of a cartoon villain, just exceedingly excited over this, of what Donald Trump is doing. But I want to start with Donald Trump himself setting the stage for the rest of these bootlicking, lapdog, ass-kissing, brown-nosing Republicans, for they've been given their talking points over the years from Donald Trump. Watch this.
Comey and all this, sleazebags. Comey lied to everybody.
Brennan.
We fired Comey, that fraud. That phony, crooked Comey. Comey should hang his head in disgrace. Comey is a dirty cop. Comey is a corrupt person. One of the best things is firing James Comey's out of there. He's a leaker. Comey, who's the worst. They lied to Congress many times. Comey and all those guys. Comey lies and leaks. He's a liar and he's a leaker. Is this guy being looked at? But we're going to straighten it out.
A guy like Comey, who's a sick man. I mean, Comey's a sick man. The one person I did a very good thing in firing was the dirty cop Comey. There's something wrong with him. But it's all coming out, and I love to watch it step by step, day by day. Comey's a liar and a leaker. I did you a great favor when I fired this guy.
So they know what to say. They know how to feel. They've been told how high to jump. As Troy Nell said, if Donald Trump tells us to jump and scratch our head, we just do it. We don't think. Donald Trump's always right. He's the cult leader. He's the dear leader. We must obey. And of all the obsequious, absolutely participating in Republican erotica where they lust, they lather up Donald Trump with praise and who knows what else, Lindsey Graham is among the worst of the worst. He said this yesterday to Sean Hannity about the indictment of James Comey, Donald Trump's chief opponent, apparently.
Senator, for those that didn't get as deep in the weeds as we have, this is profound and deep. And do you agree with me that this is the tip of the iceberg?
Yeah, I hope so. He said he knew there would be a cost standing up to Trump. Everybody who stands up to Trump gets cheered on as a hero. Every accusation against Trump that's bad for him is assumed to be true. The question is there any cost to people trying to destroy President Trump's presidency, his personal life? Is there any cost in this country for lying to a court to push a warrant that is really not accurate?
The question is there any cost to those who try to destroy Donald Trump's presidency? Is there any cost to those who come against and speak against his presidency? Him as a man, him as a scoundrel, him as a fascist. Is there any cost to them? Demands Lindsey Graham. Well, apparently there is a cost, because this is a completely different tune than Lindsey Graham has been saying for years. I mean, once Donald Trump became president, he prostrated himself before the dear leader and completely changed his tune and attitude about the things he had previously said. That he's a kook and a religious bigot and that he's not fit to be commander-in-chief. All of these things he said. And if you don't remember, it's a stark contrast from that Lindsey Graham that you just heard to this one.
What is your reaction to hearing what Donald Trump says?
I'm disgusted. Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. That he's a jackass.
Really?
That he's bringing his name down and he's not helping the process, and he shouldn't be commander-in-chief. If you want to be commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you need to understand that John McCain and all like him, not just John, are truly American heroes. So here's what I think. I think Donald Trump is a political car wreck. and people slow down and look at the wreck, but they eventually move on. I'm not going to try to get into the mind of Donald Trump because I don't think there's a whole lot of space there. I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office. And I'm a Republican, and he's not. He's not a conservative Republican. He's an opportunist. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and 25 or 30% of the people would still follow him because he gives a voice to their anger and their frustration. But he's not fit to be president of the United States. And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
What do you think Donald Trump has on Lindsey Graham? Lindsey Graham betrayed his loyalty to John McCain, a man he called his best friend, a man who he stood in the well of the United States Senate and gave a tearful address about the death of John McCain and the ravages of brain cancer on his best friend. And then got right in bed with Donald Trump, a man who denigrated his loyal service to his country, his heroic service to his country. Lindsey Graham is a wild piece of shit, an unbelievable, disloyal piece of garbage. He's not the only one that is supportive of all this taking place. It's not always politicians. You got lawyers. You got other members of Congress, but you've got news anchors. God, it's really, really heavy air quotes. I mean, there should be a disclaimer. Anytime anybody, the word news gets associated with Fox News. And Jesse Waters, among the worst of the worst, here he is explaining that this is just retribution for all of the weaponization that took place before when Democrats indicted politicians and Trump and hundreds of Republican activists. And you can be sure that he's talking about insurrectionists. He's referring to people who committed treason, seditious conspiracy against the country. He's reflecting upon them as Republican activists. And this apparently justifies the indictment of James Comey.
These are actual crimes. Remember, they had to make up crimes to charge Trump. 34 felony counts, charges for a crime that have never been brought before in the history of our country. This isn't revenge, it's accountability. Biden gave Merrick Garland the green light to indict Trump, and they indicted dozens of high-ranking Republican officials and hundreds of Republican activists. They put a lot of people in prison. They censured us. They debanked us. They spied on parents. So this is nothing. So far, the Trump DOJ has indicted 2 Republicans, John Bolton and James Comey. And why would we believe Comey's side of the story? He lied about Russia for years. Now, he's innocent until proven guilty, and he's going to have to make his case in court.
Yeah. Republican activists. They censored us. They debanked us. Us? Were you debanked, Jesse Waters? Were you censored, Jesse Waters? The only censorship that I see here is the government playing a role in taking Jimmy Kimmel off the air and violating his constitutional rights. Not you, dipshit. Mr. Obsessed with men and their genitals and who's masculine and who's not there, tough guy. Fucking clown. Look, again, it's not just infotainment hosts on Fox News. It's also other members of Congress. Paulina Luna, she had this to say, celebrating the indictment of James Comey.
I think that you're right, Laura, and what I will tell you is that the DOJ needs to act aggressively because the American people are tired of a two-standard system in justice. And frankly, what he did largely is responsible for why there is a big political divide in this country, because they operated on a lie. He violated the president's literally civil liberties, and I would even argue on top of that, he leaked classified information. This guy should never be held or able to hold another government job forever for the rest of his life. And I would say that the Department of Justice has everything that they need to bring forward the charges, and they should throw the entire book at him. So that's a 5-year prison sentence, and he deserves every single day of it.
Do they hear themselves? Can she specifically hear herself? the two-tiered system of justice in this country? Donald Trump was only convicted in one particular case. I mean, the civil case with E. Jean Carroll, where he was found to have sexually assaulted her. Yeah, that one too. But as far as the felonies are concerned, in the hush money case or the fraud case, yeah. But what about the documents case where he absconded with national security secrets? Well, what about that? That went away because the two-tiered system of justice allows the president to do away with cases, even ones that implicate him in wild crimes against the country. In any other system of government or justice, Donald Trump would be behind bars for inciting an insurrection against the country. In any other system of justice, he would have been impeached and removed by the Senate in his first impeachment. Certainly the second that dealt with the insurrection. These people are beyond parody. They are dangerous because they're normalizing this. When they all talk about the people who were targeted by Joe Biden. Joe Biden put Merrick Garland, who apparently just loves naps and was asleep at the wheel the whole time, who would appoint Republicans to look into Hunter Biden. So we want to avoid the appearance of bias when there's no bias to be found anywhere. The investigation of the president's son went forward. The case against the president's son went forward while the president was in office. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden. Tell me again how it was all corrupt. It's that Donald Trump was going to face consequence for his criminality, for his crimes against we the people. And Republicans can't have that. The same Republicans who used to call him a kook and a religious bigot and not fit to be commander-in-chief. Those same Republicans are now, oh, the dear leader. We see you, Lindsey Graham. We see you, Anna Paulina Luna. We see you, Jesse Waters. And Jim Trusty, which I'm not even going to get to. So his former lawyer who had a bunch of shit to say too. You can find the clip on CNN. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this, but before you let me know, subscribe to this channel on Facebook or like and follow this page on Facebook, Dollemore Daily. I would appreciate it very much. Share this content on Facebook. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. We're trying to get to 1.5 million by the end of the year. I think we can do it with your help. I know we can. And if you want to sound off, you can comment below the video or call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always, daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, if you appreciate what I do, you can become a patron over on Patreon, patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I would appreciate that very much. Or you can become a channel member right here on YouTube. Click the join button below. Just engagement in general is very important, and I would appreciate it.
Jasmine Crockett, she's a very low IQ person. I mean, if we ever had to pass an aptitude test, that's the one should take one because she shouldn't even be in the crowd.
Come the end of the week, Donald Trump is giddy about getting on with the weekend. He wants to go do his golfing and hang out at his resorts. He's not interested in being president of the United States. He's certainly not interested in being president of all of the United States. And there's no better indication of this, there's no better evidence of this than what took place yesterday, this disgraceful, racist moment from our worthless fucking cunt of a president, Donald Trump. He's asked a question, and he wants to talk about Jasmine Crockett as a low IQ individual. The dumbest dumb who ever dumb Donald Trump wants to say that educated, smart, courageous, effective in both leadership and communication, that Jasmine Crockett is low IQ. Our low IQ commander-in-chief wants to say who's low IQ and who's not. Great. And it morphs into just a racist attack on Ilhan Omar, it should come as no surprise to you that Donald Trump saves the most venom and vicious vitriol for black women. Because he's a racist. He's a white supremacist who heads the Republican Party, the most effective, violent disseminating white supremacist organization on planet Earth. Watch this moment. And it's racist, so brace yourself. I don't give a lot of trigger warnings or content warnings, but if you're sensitive, maybe this isn't the video for you. Watch the President of the United States attack black women gleefully in the Oval Office.
Yes, please.
Jasmine Crockett recently.
Jasmine Crockett. Remember what I said? Is she a relation to the late, great Davy Crockett? I don't think so. Jasmine Crockett, let me tell you, before you even ask, she's a very low IQ person. I mean, if we ever had to pass an aptitude test, that's the one should take one because she shouldn't even be in the crowd. So I have no idea what you're going to, but I don't think we should waste our time. This is a low IQ person who I can't even believe is a congressperson, between her and Ilhan Omar and the group. I met the head of Somalia. Did you know that? And I suggested that maybe he'd like to take her back, and he didn't want her. He said, "I don't want her." Okay, what else? Go ahead. Let's hear what Crockett said. Go ahead.
She compared ICE raids to slave patrol. I want to ask you.
To slave?
To slave patrol. I want to ask you if you think that there should be consequences for members of Congress who make these types of comparisons or use this type of language.
Well, I think she's gone over the line, and I think a lot of the people. Look, the Democrats have become radical left lunatics.
Okay. Well, first of all, Ed O'Keefe, you might not know some of the players here, but Ed O'Keefe is a straight newsman. Ed O'Keefe is the guy in the light blue suit who seems to be suppressing laughter through his clenched little tight smile as Donald Trump launches into vitriolic racism against two black members of Congress. You should be checking with yourself and your moral compass today, Ed O'Keefe, because that was disgraceful. Just because you're in the presence of an asshole doesn't mean you have to act like an asshole. I mean, what needs to be said about, I suggested maybe he'd like to take her back. He said, I don't want her. You want to send an American citizen back to another country? Are you talking about deporting a citizen of the country in Ilhan Omar and a duly elected representative of a constituency in the state of Minnesota in our Congress, Donald Trump? Because she's black? Because she's not a Christian? Because she wears a headscarf? I mean, what? Make it make sense. And all of the low IQ shit is just bananas to me that Donald Trump, of all people, Donald Trump, it's not like Stephen Miller or J.D. Vance, someone who has some semblance of average intelligence is calling this out. We're talking about Donald Trump saying that Jasmine Crockett is low IQ. I mean, maybe he's right. What bad can happen from it? Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
It can only good happen. High IQ, it can only good happen, has that to say. The same, by the way, you don't even have to go, I only have to go back a couple days to find Donald Trump exhibiting low IQ dementia. On a daily basis, it happens. Same meeting where he could not pronounce the word acetaminophen.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
That's it. Sound it out. Yeah. Good job, buddy. Yeah. Sound out the word. Luckily, Robert Kennedy Jr. was behind you. Acetaminophen. It's acetaminophen. Say it. Say it. But Jasmine Crockett's low IQ. And it's not just acetaminophen. He didn't know how to pronounce the word Yosemite. Remember this moment.
We want every American child to have access to pristine outdoor spaces. When young Americans experience the breathtaking beauty of the Grand Canyon, when their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful bursts into the sky, when they gaze upon Yosemites, towering sequoias.
Yo, Semites. Oh, the beautiful sequoias in the Yosemites. But Jasmine Crockett is low IQ. How about this little ditty from a book that was written? This is Chris Hayes from MSNBC explaining Donald Trump thinking that reading the Constitution, our governing document, a document to which he swore an oath, and it's written in plain language, that it was like reading a foreign language, said Donald Trump.
According to the new book, A Very Stable Genius, excerpted in Vanity Fair, about 6 weeks after the election, an HBO documentary is being put together in which the U.S. Constitution would be read, start to finish, by various American leaders. Trump's part on Article 2 gave him some trouble. From the book, Trump grew irritated. It's very hard to do because of the language here, Trump told the crew. It's very hard to get through the whole thing without a stumble. He added, it's like a different language, right? Trump tried again, but again remarked, it's like a foreign language. But much like the Disney robot, Trump did finally power through it. How much he actually absorbed? Well, I think we all know.
Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. Also, someday you ought to read a thing called Article 2. Read Article 2. Which gives the president powers that you wouldn't believe.
And of course, it would not be a recounting of the big brain of Donald Trump if we didn't provide a mashup of him and his best words. I got words. I got the best words. I'm very smart. I'm a very stable genius. Watch the stability of his genius while mispronouncing and being unable to read words off a teleprompter in any standard fashion from President of the United States, no less maybe like a third grader.
You know, we just said another stock rocket. You saw that, right? The stock market. Technology companies are really big beneficiaries. The wall is under construction. A lot of work has been done. A lot of renovation. Made a pivotal, really, and I mean this was pivotal. Obama amnesty. Obama amnesty. And ICE officers. Removed 10,000 known or suspected gang members, police officers, and you saw that, all of those incredible police officers. I am today starting the process of terminating the diversity lottery program. If we are going to succeed in stopping this scourge, decided to shield and shelter criminal. Wait. Their whole state to be a sanctuary for criminal, illegal immigrants. Fairness and reciprocity. And I say that finally. I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia, embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, despite these obstacles, Karen, we must seek real bipartisan solutions. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports and the combat infantrymen. They sacrifice every day for the furniture and future of their children.
Yeah. And it's Jasmine Crockett with the low IQ. Please. Anyway, racism is a pernicious force in our world. It is a poison, and Donald Trump distributes that poison like he's some kind of a Dr. Oz character selling magical miracle diet cures on his shitty TV show. That's what we've got. A huckster as a president. A snake oil salesman as a president. Even Lindsey Graham yesterday said he's P.T. Barnum and Ronald Reagan melded into one. They know he's a con artist. They know he's the owner of a sideshow, and we happen to be forced to witness it.
Under my direction, we're making it clear without hesitation that the soldiers who fought in the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890 will keep their medals.
We should not honor people who participated in the massacre of women and children. Pete Hegseth yesterday announced that they would not be reevaluating the Medal of Honor situation for soldiers who conducted a massacre of women and children. He calls it the Battle of Wounded Knee. It was a massacre. That's absolutely what it was. And before I get to his tweet and his video about it, I want to read briefly, for those of you who don't know, what the Battle of Wounded Knee was and what the behavior of these soldiers was, who were awarded the Medal of Honor for their heroic valor and bravery in battle in service to the United States of America. So stick around, very briefly, 3 paragraphs, stick around. We'll get to the Pete Hegseth stuff, but we need to set the stage for what this is about. It's important. This is from We Are Mighty. On December 29th, 1890, near Wounded Knee Creek on the Lakota Pine Ridge Reservation, the U.S. 7th Cavalry attempted to disarm a band of Lakota led by Spotted Elk. A shot, no one knows who fired the shot, sparked chaos. Soldiers fired rifles and Hotchkiss rapid-fire guns into the native encampment. An estimated 250 to 300 Lakota were killed, mostly women and children. Roughly 25 American soldiers died, some from friendly fire. The following year, the Army awarded 20 medals of honor to soldiers who were at Wounded Knee. This included Sergeant William G. Austin, whose Medal of Honor citation reads, quote, "When the Indians were concealed in a ravine, assisted men on the skirmish line, directing their fire, etc., and using every effort to dislodge the enemy. In reality, the enemy was a frightened group of women and children hiding in the ravine, hoping to survive the slaughter. And Austin systematically executed them. So goes the story of other medals issued for that day. That's why former Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin ordered a review of these medals. And that brings us to present day. This tweet from yesterday from the Department of War Secretary, dipshit, skinny-legged Pete Hegseth. Under my direction, the soldiers who fought at the Battle of Wounded Knee will keep their medals. This decision is final. Their place in history is settled. Endorsement of a massacre of women, some pregnant women and children. Here's the video that accompanied that stupid tweet from our stupid Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Under the previous administration, a review panel was convened to determine whether soldiers awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions at the Battle of Wounded Knee should keep their medals. Now, upon deliberation, that panel concluded that these brave soldiers should, in fact, rightfully keep their medals from actions in 1890. The report was concluded in October of 2024. Yet, despite this clear recommendation, former Secretary Lloyd Austin, for whatever reason, I think we know he was more interested in being politically correct than historically correct, chose not to make a final decision. Such careless inaction has allowed for their distinguished recognition to remain in limbo until now. Under my direction, we're making it clear without hesitation that the soldiers who fought in the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890 will keep their medals. And we're making it clear that they deserve those medals. This decision is now final, and their place in our nation's history is no longer up for debate. We salute their memory, we honor their service, and we will never forget what they did.
We should not honor people who participated in the massacre of women and children. We should not honor people who participated, soldiers who participated, representatives of the United States government who participated in the slaughter, the massacre of just Native peoples in general. Not to mention women and children. Now look, if you're still here Thank you. It means that you do think this is important. And maybe you want to know more. Maybe you want to know more than just from some account written by someone who's familiar with history. If you want to learn about an account from someone who was there, this is that. This is from PBS. This is from someone called American Horse. The men were separated, as has already been said, from the women, and they were surrounded by the soldiers. Then came next the village of the Indians, and that was entirely surrounded by soldiers also. When the firing began, of course, the people who were standing immediately around the young man who fired the first shot were killed right together. And then they turned their guns, Hotchkill guns, etc., upon the women who were in the lodges standing there under a flag of truce. And of course, as soon as they were fired upon, they fled. The men fleeing in one direction and the women running in two different directions, so that they were three general directions in which they took flight. There was a woman with an infant in her arms who was killed as she almost touched the flag of truce. And the women and children, of course, were strewn along the circular village until they were dispatched. That means killed. That means murdered. That means gunned down by highly trained troops serving the United States Army. The people who got the Medal of Honor for this massacre. Right near the flag of truce, a mother was shot down with her infant. The child, not knowing that its mother was dead, was still nursing. And that especially was a sad sight. The women, as they were fleeing with their babies, were killed together, shot right through. And the women who were very heavy with child, that means pregnant, the women who were heavy with child were also killed. All the Indians fled in these three directions, and after most of them had been killed, a cry was made that all those who were not killed wounded should come forth and they would be safe. Little boys who were not wounded came out of their places of refuge, and as soon as they came in sight of the number of soldiers, surrounded them and butchered them there. And Pete Hegseth wants to maintain the Medal of Honor for these fucking cowards. For these traitors to their oaths to the Constitution. These administrators of massacre of women and children and young boys who were surrendering. We know who you are, Pete Hegseth. We know who you serve, Pete Hegseth. For me, the most alarming element of this is that this is what we can see in our future with our military, with our government, with Donald Trump as commander-in-chief and Pete fucking Hegseth as the Secretary of War. This is how they feel. This is what they believe is orderly, is appropriate, is necessary. War crimes, massacres. Donald Trump wants so desperately to be Benjamin Netanyahu and administer a genocide that he's just getting started. What do you think? I appreciate you joining me for this distasteful walk through history, a remembrance of some of the horrors that has been visited upon marginalized and oppressed groups in this country since day one. It doesn't mean I don't love my country. The reason I criticize and talk about things is because I do love my country, and I don't want this to happen again. If you appreciate what I do, please subscribe to this channel. You can click subscribe below. It's free to do so. You can make sure you're liking and following the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily, over on Zuckerberg's Facebook. You can sound off. We can have a conversation in the comments wherever you're watching the video. And you can also leave me a brief voicemail at 714-576-4054. And you can email me to daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to try to take at least one day off. We'll see how that goes, depending on the news. Be genuine. Take care of one another.